Ladies and gentlemen, it's Wednesday night. It means it's lulls. We don't always have guests. When we do, they are very special. With my host, Brian Hooper, of course, our guest of honor, Mr. David Bergman, perhaps better known in the DFS community as Mr. Whistlesgowoo. Can we get it from you, David?
Whistlesgowoo!
There we go. There we go. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. It's really great to be on the show. I love, talking to people about DFS and also meeting fellow competitors. I think it's always fun to kind of connect with people in the world of DFS.
Yeah, are you on Twitter at all? Lurking anywhere, or completely off Twitter?
I'm not by design. I just happen to not have much of a social media presence, so I'm not on Twitter. Although many people have told me I should probably jump in at some point.
Yeah, I assume so. You don't even use it for like fantasy news purposes?
A little bit, but not. I mean, as long as I just like track things and just look at it, but I don't really have a handle that I check very regularly or post.
It's a good way to see if people are making fun of you.
Okay,
you really want to hop on there.
Yeah, I should probably jump in then. Yeah.
That's right. So yeah, we are excited to get to know you because everyone has seen the video from you winning the 2.5 million, of course, the infamous woo. But then the other day, this article came out about you. You're buttoned up, looking all dapper as a professor here at UConn. And I feel like collectively our minds just exploded a little bit because we're like, wait, is this the just party animal who binked a tournament? Or is this the mathematician, using game theory and sims behind the scenes to crush at DFS? So what is it?
Work hard, play hard. I don't know what else to tell you. You know what I mean? I think that's been my motto my whole life, right? I work hard, play hard, always excited about things. And yeah, I mean, some of my senior colleagues saw the video and they were like, you really went WWE on us for a little bit over there. I was like, you got it, man. But, it's all the fun of the game. It was exciting, of course. And I was really happy, obviously, on the night of the championship.
Is that the trophy there over your shoulder?
It is, yeah. And actually, I can show you something super cool. So I got it in the mail, of course, because COVID, right?
Yeah.
And the first trophy, you guys will love this. 1 second. The first trophy came broken.
Oh, wow.
So you see the top is kind of snapped off over there. But I wrote to the DraftKings people and they immediately sent me a new trophy. So that was awesome.
There you go. And I mean, we're now in the NFT space, these misprints and stuff on collectibles are very valuable. So I feel like that misprint trophy, I'm glad they didn't make you send that back. You get both now. I'm
definitely keeping it, right? I mean, I'm not going to put it together. I'm going to leave it as it is. The crown is kind of off on the side and this is over here. We'll see what I do with it. Yeah.
So Brian and David, I feel like you guys know each other. You have to recognize each other's handles from the DFS lobby these days. David, it seems like you're playing everything.
Yeah, I mean, so I started in about 3 years ago, dabbling in DFS. Didn't have much success. And then sometime at the end of 2019, things started to pick up for me. And then, leading into the Super Bowl of 2020, not last year, right? 2020. And then all through, the COVID and the shutdowns and some LOL, got a little bit more into it and then got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm loving it. It's fun, relatively new to it, but also really enjoying it and having some success.
Yeah. Did you bank anything in 2019 how'd you get your bankroll?
Nothing major. I mean, I started with not that much, something like 10K in the account. I mean, 2K, right? That's all you could put in at a time. When I was living in Massachusetts, that was the limit on it. But then every month put in 2K, got it up to 10K in the system. And since then, just been growing it.
That's awesome. And what is your, from your background with mathematics, I assume that was kind of the appeal for you for how to approach DFS?
For sure. So yeah, I mean, I've been doing analytics for a long time now. I was talking to some buddies. I played in a season-long fantasy football league, the Vodka Boys in White Plains, New York. And so, we've been playing for years. And then, I started to hear more and more about DFS. Obviously, they advertise all over the place. It was clearly a problem that's well-suited to my skill set. So I said I'd dabble in, right? Again, even with the analytical skill set, it took me some time to really get a handle for how to play this game, right? I mean, it's not purely analytics, right? You have to use some understanding of the game, some understanding of DFS, and also the sports game. So, yeah.
There you go. And go ahead, Brian.
Do you do this all by yourself? Do you work with a team at all?
Just by myself,
I couldn't hear you. Sorry.
yeah, just by myself.
Just by yourself. So you get all these entries in by yourself and late swaps and everything. How do you pull that off? It's pretty tough. I know from experience. And I gave up hockey this year.
I think it depends on right. So take something like baseball, right? If you're running baseball in other games, you don't have to worry too much about making sure that you're getting the baseball runs right at this moment, right? Because the lineups are set. Sure, sometimes there's some things that happen. You have to be careful about it. But normally, like right by game times for other sports, I can kind of put baseball aside. Then something like hockey is a little bit tough to keep up with the news because they really release things like this close to game time sometimes. So I kind of track that on DraftKings while it's running. As far as basketball and stuff, we all know the mess with that, right? And so there you have to be really fine-tuned, right? And make sure that you've got nobody there. I mean, I've got, code on the back end. And when someone's out, I can make quick swaps and make sure that they're out, put new guys in, and let it run.
Does this affect your job? Because you're is associate professor, is that like a full-time position?
It is, yeah. I mean, I think, as a professor, you have some flexibility in your schedule, of course. And most games happen at night, right? And so I find that, I'm really able to dial into DFS, in the afternoon or something, 4 or 5 o'clock or something, and get everything prepped in time. There are some daytime games. For example, I don't know if you played in the baseball slate today. It was a 2-game slate. But, a 2-game baseball slate doesn't take that much effort to get in, right? I mean, I can do it in a few minutes or whatever of my time, and then let things run, then upload and get in. So, yeah. I mean, it's a lot, right? It really does take quite a bit of time, but I think you have to just develop a system. It didn't happen overnight, right? I started with one thing at a time, matching things in Excel, taking a long time to make sure everything was right. But as you get more into it and started to play more slates, more games, I have my system, right? And I really think that, I make a schedule every night. I know exactly every time what's coming up next. I follow that. For example, I know that right now the next lock is 8:10 for a baseball game. Then I have nothing till 9 o'clock. So that gives me a 50-minute window to kind of make sure everything is ready, gear up for the 9 o'clock swaps if I have to, and get ready to roll.
What sites do you play on? DK
only
and
DraftKings. So I've dabbled in FanDuel, only in basketball from what I can remember. Didn't have too much success, but I also didn't take too much effort, right? I think I had a little slump in like February-ish, and that was when I tried FanDuel out. So like I don't think it was a FanDuel thing, right? I think it's just like it was during like kind of a bad beat time for me in basketball. But I'm thinking about getting back into that, but so far just DraftKings. And I think when I was trying to do the FanDuel and the DraftKings at the same time, that was a bit complicated, right? But I think, I'm super fluid with the DraftKings just setup and everything. And so, yeah, generally able to, keep it going.
How much did I assume your volume of play ratcheted up big time after winning the fantasy football or the world championship? Did any other bit of your approach change at all? Or is it just kind of like you were able to scale your volume up with more of a bankroll?
Scale my volume. Actually, so my bankroll really grew in early 2000, right? That's how I got into all the qualifiers for the championship, right? So I had 8 entries in the NFL World Championship. 9 was the most you can get. And you got to pay a lot to get these tickets, right? You can't just, go into one competition to buy the tickets, right? You have to buy in quite a bit. So my bankroll had been rising pretty substantially throughout 2000. And then, the NFL season was really good to me the first couple of weeks, at least. That's when I first hit like a couple 100Ks or whatever. And then I was able to, buy into the championship and so forth and so on. I had played baseball and basketball also in 2018, maybe 2019. I can't exactly remember, but at a much lower rate, right? I mean, I wasn't, and so, you get a system. And again, you can't just like dive into playing all the sports every night. That's impossible, right? You have to make mistakes too, right? I mean, there's been plenty of times that I've had duds in there. It happens less and less frequently these days, but that's, from practice.
Do you play cash games?
No, just tournaments. Sometimes single entries up to 11 or 10 people, mostly. I mean, sometimes I'll go into contests with 5 entrants total in one entry, but typically I like the bigger ones.
Has anything else changed in your life since hitting that big score? Any big purchases, or you've been living within your means here?
living with him, I mean, me and my wife are pretty simple people, right? I mean, what is nice, I got 2 kids. I was able to max out their college funds already, right? They're very young. So they're 1 and 3. So able to max out their funds.
Wait. I was thinking, all right, he's a professor, he's playing all these sports, but clearly there's no way you're juggling a family on top of all this. Now you're telling me you have 2 young kids?
So I would say before even I got into DFS, most of my buddies were like, how in the world do you do everything you do professionally? I don't know if you guys know McKinsey & Company. It's a management consulting firm. I work for them very frequently. I do a lot of work for them. I do a lot of consulting on the side. I do academic research. I teach classes. I do all types of stuff. And I think, again, even before DFS, everyone was like, so what is your profession? And I was like, I don't know. I just do whatever comes my way. And DFS, of course I had to slot out some other things, right? And of course, bedtime gets a little tricky with kids and all this stuff, but you juggle it, right? My wife is supportive and everything, and just enjoy life.
So then how much, if you are playing this kind of volume, this amount of sports, how much of it is you are an action junkie, and how much of it is, I think I have really nice edges in these and I want to push it to the max as much as I can?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, right. Being an analytics professional, I guess I thought before I got into DFS that I would be able to run into it and just dominate the field. That was clearly incorrect, because people that had experience obviously, took me down very easily in the beginning. But then, yeah, I mean, ever since I started to get some upwards trajectory, and then I hit my first 10K win or something like this, it started to become kind of, it's sort of an addiction, right? I mean, it's what I do at night, right? I love it. It's fun. Typically from 7 to 10, I'm basically glued to my phone watching the DraftKings dots go left and right, making sure that I got the right players in, checking Roto World, NBC Sports, whatever, making sure I got the right guys in at the right time. But yeah, I was happy that you scheduled it 8 o'clock today, because at least that was at a good time for the little window between start times for me.
I was going to say, I just got lucky on our time. Otherwise, I figured you were going to send me over maybe a sheet of your intense schedule and where you could fit us in.
Yeah, I mean, I would maybe one day I'll flash to you my schedule. I print out the thing every day, right? It's just 7 till 10:30 sometimes, depending on hockey and baseball.
It's not entirely lucky, because I scheduled this time over a year ago, and because it's the best time you could really do a show without interfering with DFS.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a bunch of lineups in right now too, right? I mean, at 9 o'clock you have to check news as well, right? I mean, there's no.
Yeah, Dave. I plan all the sites, unlike you. No, okay. Can we ask you about your process a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a little bit about it. Sure. I mean,
okay. Do you make your own projections?
I do some type of aggregate projections from multiple places when appropriate. Sometimes you can't do it, particularly right up to game time, and then I pick the right one for the right score.
Do you use an optimizer? A one you pay for?
No. All is in my own stuff.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you. I didn't make that bet.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think you couldn't. I don't know if you'd have time to interface with the third-party tools in time to deal with all 3 sports. I'm not sure. Maybe you could, but
So you use an aggregate projection system, and then you use some sort of software package. You have to use a software package to optimize it. I doubt you built an optimizer in Excel, right?
Definitely not Excel.
What stats programs do you use?
If you look at my background, optimization is literally my experience, my expertise, right? What I do professionally before I got into DFS was develop algorithms for optimization. It is what I do professionally, right? So this is my own system. This is my own code, and I write the whole thing.
Would you ever consider making it a product for sale, kind of your proprietary optimization tools?
I was thinking about it, but I think for now, if I'm having success, that's taking up all my time anyway, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I could, but then you've got to get a whole web interface and all this other stuff. You could just create a software package that people who are code friendly could download and use. But yeah, everything I just build is completely from scratch, written by myself. Yeah.
So for NBA, one thing we talk about a lot is, where do you fall on, do you enjoy being glued to your computer for all the late swap stuff, or do you wish that it was just it locked and then you could have the rest of your evening? This is where we find out how much you actually love your family.
What a question. So the good thing is that I've got very little kids and they go to sleep around 6:30 or 7, right? And so, yeah, I mean, I think I love the action. It's super exciting. It can get really frustrating and you're just tired, right? I mean, NBA is tough. It really is a grind. MLB is simple, right? I mean, you put the thing in again, you can just check the lineups and just once MLB posts the lineups, you can just do the change at your leisure. But yeah, basketball's tough. I mean, look, if you're going to be competitive, you have got to stay glued to your computer from 7 to 10. And that's but before I got into DFS, Monday through Friday, I was working from 6 a.m. until 11 p.m. anyway. So, I mean, and with a little break for dinner with the family, no change really. So, this just swapped out some of my other professional actions. That's all.
There you go.
So can I ask you another question about your optimizer, your process? Do you, does your software package take into account some sort of game theory aspect when you're building your lineups?
So there's a kind of trigger there where I can say, take into account ownership or don't take into account any ownership. Right. And I've always found it pretty tricky to deal with ownership for a variety of reasons. Right. I mean, so suppose that whatever I project for some player, they're undervalued. Suppose that's the case. Then whatever kind of projection ownership I have would probably say that I think people are going to own them less. So I'm going to use them more. But I already have a high projection for them, right? So it really is this kind of catch-22 type of thing when you use ownership in their decision-making. Of course, you don't want to own someone a ton of times if they're not really someone you believe is going to have high value. And so there I cap the amount of times I pick players sometimes and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I find it, there's some times where I find it to be valuable, but a lot of the times not. It just depends really.
Okay. So that's a maybe. Or sometimes
yeah. So I have literally code where I can say use ownership projections or don't use ownership projections.
And so this code that when you choose to use it, did you base the adjustments you make off of regressions? Where did you come up with some sort of formula to make a change?
Yeah, I mean, you could use some fancy random forest or some other happy-go-lucky machine learning model. You're probably not going to improve upon your ownership projections over some kind of linear regression model. Probably, maybe people do. I have no idea. Okay, that's at least from my experience. And again, I think the catch-22, right, is that your ownership projection is going to be linked to your projection of a player, right? I mean, if you're
it doesn't necessarily have to, but you can do it multiple ways, and that's kind of a problem with people use the same ownership from the same projections. Something like that can happen. Correct. So, like if you're using someone's projections and their ownership, I could see that being a problem for you. But I'm not asking how to create ownership projections, and in my opinion, it's not linear; it's a combination. But like, I'm talking about how in your opinion would you adjust for ownership? Would you use historical data? Would you use a simulation? Do you use simulations?
Well, now you're trying to get a little bit more deeper in my actual models and everything, and I can't go quite that deep. But I will say that what I do, if there's someone I feel that the field is going to own too many times, you can just put a hard cap on the amount of lineups you put with that person, right? I mean, it can be as simple as that. And, I don't know exactly how other experts are using ownership, but it does seem like I probably use it less than other people. That's what I will say.
I know for a lot of players, even the idea of hanging out on Twitter, a hive mind forming, there's people in groups who bounce ideas off of each other. It sounds like you are almost extremely siloed in your process, probably comparative to most of the field.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I think I don't know. You take the top people on any one of the ranking sites, like Roto Grinders, right? I mean, you've got Osmo, of course, he's everywhere. There's no shadow and no question about that. But I mean, do we know what? I'll just go through the top basketball players, right? Do we know what Chipotle does? Do we know what Papa Gates does? Do we know what McLovin does? Do we know what BK Reader does, for example, right? It's a little bit tough. So you don't really know what those guys do. And yeah, I mean, I try to look like I have close buddies that I speak to very frequently about daily fantasy sports. Some on the daily, right? But only a few of them really know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Was it? So one thing I mentioned at the top was just this idea of your, on paper, what you do, and then this interview that a lot of people in the community thought this dude's a fish. He just got lucky. He's just this party animal, like not understanding maybe the stuff you were doing behind the scenes. Was any bit of that a conscious choice, or was it literally just, I won $2.5 million and I was having the time of my life?
Listen, you win $2.5 million. Like this sweat leading up to that, I'm sure you guys can imagine, is unreal, right? I mean, I've had some sweats up to top prizes, 100s, 150s and stuff like that, but it's just nothing like the 2.5, right? And so obviously I was having a jolly old time, right? And listen, like I was having good hits. Like NFL Showdowns, I won a bunch of 100Ks leading up to the championship. And that's where it started to rise, right? And I think maybe I was a bit of a surprise to the field, right? But I think it happened quickly, right? I think, again, in the first 2 years I was playing, I don't think my strategy was right, whatever that strategy may have been. I had to adapt it, I had to modify it, and I still modify it all the time, right? Making minor changes here and there when I see things are not working as well. This year I've made a ton of changes, and actually I use slightly different processes by sport, right? And I think there's different ways that you have to think about it. I mean, take something like a 3-game basketball slate versus something like a 14-game baseball slate. Those are different beasts, right? I mean, you have really different considerations there, because with a 2-3 game basketball slate, you really can buy vision, look at who's available, think about who you might want to center around and so forth and so on. But then when you go to a bigger 14-game slate in baseball or 15-game slate, I mean, there's just got to be something different, right? Yeah.
So do you use simulations at all in your process? I mean, I use simulations. There's a lot of people who do. I'm not asking you to tell me specifically what you do, but do you use simulations at all?
I definitely use some simulations for sure.
Okay. Do you use a combination of static formulas and simulations, like static regressions with a combination of a simulation? You kind of have to.
Yeah, I definitely use regressions, and I definitely use simulation in my overall approach for sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then so almost all this is done on your PC with your proprietary coding.
Well, Macs, actually, I used to be a PC guy, but then I turned into Macs. But yes, all on my own personal.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm a huge Mac guy. I mean, I used to, right. So I've been coding for many years, right? I mean, I used to use Linux a lot. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Just a different operating system that a lot of code junkies use. But I find Macs to be right in the sweet spot between PCs and Linux, right? I mean, you can really run code really fluidly, great terminals, great this, great that. So,
that article you wrote on DFS, do you use anything in there?
I mean, some of it I did, at least. I think I've started to improve upon whatever is in those articles. I also wrote a paper about survival pools in the NFL, by the way. You should look that up one day. Survival pools where you have to pick a team each year.
Yeah.
So so I wrote an article about that with one of my buddies. And that's a cool game too. It's really interesting. The only problem with that is that it's once a year, right? So you have a bad beat week and it's just, you're falling by the hills. DFS, you have a bad night. I don't even know how I'm doing right now, which typically I'm monitoring it I like to call it babysitting my DraftKings account. But yeah, I mean, you have a bad day in DraftKings. Well, that happens. Yesterday they had that 250 up top baseball competition. I don't know if you were in that one. So that one I missed on, right? I mean, I had the guys from the game that got postponed and done, but that's okay, right? Because I'm playing all the sports, all of it gets washed away. I hit a 50K showdown in basketball last night, so that kind of made up for the baseball hit. So yeah, you have to grind on and on and on.
Do you enjoy the actual, obviously you're monitoring, babysitting it to make sure you're making the necessary swaps and all of that, but do you enjoy the actual sweat, the sports themselves? Because the thing you'll hear from a lot of the analytics guys is I don't even need to watch the games. I got my numbers and that's all I need. Or do you actually love the sweat equity you get from DFS?
Oh, I love it. I mean, the thing is eventually at some point I gotta go to sleep, right? So after lock, sometimes I'm just I gotta just go to bed. Let's see what happens. But generally, I really like to watch the end of a basketball game if I'm up there, right? And I can kind of tell basketball early in the night if I have a chance. Baseball's a bit harder, right? Because, one home run, one 3-run, one triple, one whatever can really rise some lineups that you didn't even see. But yeah, football, for example, I'm football season, I'm glued to my TV. I love football. It's really, for me, it's always been my favorite sport. And so, yeah, I mean, and having this along with the sport really brought it back to life, right? I mean, I enjoyed it, but as I got older and more busy with my professional career, my watching went down a little bit, right? But then as I kind of got more into DFS, I've been able to watch even more. I love the sports, yeah.
So that tells me you were never like a professional poker player or any gambling in your past.
No, I did play poker, and I did enjoy
a living.
poker, and I was reasonable at poker, but never like, this was really casual. I mean, I would go to casino. In Connecticut, they have these casinos here, right? You go to the 1, 2, 2, 5, whatever tables, right? But not anything too serious.
And because my experience, the opposite happens. The more you gamble on something, the less you actually like it. I think you might be a little bit of an outlier, or maybe you just need a couple more years and then you'll be like me. But who knows? So I heard a rumor through the grapevine that you partied with a DFS player at the Super Bowl. Goes by the handle RBX88. Is this true or is this rumor?
Oh yeah, we had a good time. I mean, I hung out with all whoever was there. We had a great time. Yeah, he's
wow.
A great guy.
Talk about a hide your wife, hide your kids situation. Whistlesgowoo and RBX88 out on the town.
So I'll tell you who came to the Super Bowl with me. It was my dad and my two brothers. I won the tickets, so I got two tickets to the Super Bowl. That was me and my dad got that, and then I bought my brother's tickets. And then DraftKings was super nice. They let them come to all events, which was awesome. And so I was basically hanging with them, RBX. It was fun.
What are your thoughts on just kind of the overall current ecosystem in DFS? Because one thing, at least from my experience, I don't play near the volume or the stakes that you guys do, but with the combination of the stock market, crypto, NFTs, there's been all of these other incredible money-making opportunities, places where data that you're probably good at leveraging could be very successfully used to make money in other avenues. Have you had your kind of attention pulled in other directions, or do you just love sports so much that DFS is all you want to do?
I mean, right now DFS, but one of my buddies, he's really into like cryptocurrencies. He has been for years. And they had this PGA tournament where the top prize was one of these crypto punks.
Oh, I was in it.
Were you in it? Okay, so I was at some point winning it, I think. But of course, these things go up, and I didn't win it, obviously. But then I told him he was super excited, right? He was following it the whole weekend. But I mean, he tells me he thinks I'm crazy for not getting into cryptocurrency stuff. He's like, David, I just don't understand why in the world you are not joining me and dealing with me when it comes to this. And I said, look, like, could happen anytime, right? I reinvent myself professionally every couple of years, really. So we'll see.
There you go. Coming to a crypto exchange near you.
We'll find out.
the whistles go to the moon.
Alex Weiss, look out. He's coming for you.
Let's see. My buddy Steve has been in the chat asking a few questions. Earlier, he asked, what's your favorite DFS sport to play?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, what I love the most is a basketball showdown. Because I like basketball. It's one game. It's the only basketball thing where you can just set your lineup, sit down, have a beer, watch the game, hope that your guys climb. Now, of course, I don't know. You can build a nice model, I think, for showdowns. And so I really like basketball showdowns. Then, I think, that's probably my favorite. Just a very simple basketball nighttime show.
So in my chat, there's a follow-up to that. Leaving out the 2.5 million, what's in your opinion, your biggest plus EV sport? It's like, which one do you best at or win the most money at?
Right. So it was basketball until NFL season and not including the 2.5. I think, honestly, I hit a 200K earlier on in this season. Dak Prescott went off that game before he was injured. Couple 100Ks last season. And so really, I think football has got to be at this point my highest expected return.
What would you say? We've talked about this on the show a few times, but let's say you're okay. Rundon's not in the Angels lineup, so we're gonna have to do something about that.
Yeah, I'm looking at yeah, I'll have to probably jump.
I'm a professional vamper. If you guys need a few seconds to get your houses in order here.
Let's see. I got some.
Let me see here.
Still.
Look at this.
The game's at 8:38, so we have an hour and 6 minutes.
9:38 for me. Yeah, so I'm fine
sorry.
with that. Yeah, it's no problem.
Real America time.
Hey! You got 2 East Coasters here.
We can have a little bit of argument like that if you.
You
want.
can have 100 East Coasters. That doesn't change it.
Oh, get out of here.
Do you need?
Yeah, I also
need
will
time
have
here?
to eventually get the 9 o'clock basketball stuff.
We'll get you out. Can you do like 10, 15 more minutes?
Well, okay. Let's. Okay. There's no games in between now and an hour, so it doesn't matter.
Well, basketball there is some 9 o'clock action, right?
Yeah, but Brendan doesn't play basketball.
Yeah, I know. But I have to make sure the basketball thing is set. I understand.
Right,
I can deal with the Angels guy later on. I got to deal with basketball first. Yeah, so let's go to like 9, a little bit after.
Oh no. Yeah, I was talking about like, do you need to change your lineup right this second? Like,
no, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I can wait. Yeah, I mean,
so now I forgot my question. What were we talking about?
We're
Yeah,
talking
so
about
for like
sport.
a person starting out, let's say they got a little bit of experience. They're not data analysts. They're not stats guys. What sport would you point them to? How to build a bankroll, and like what tips would you give? Not a newbie, but someone who wants to maybe make this part-time income or more.
Why don't you try with hockey first, right? I mean, a lot of the super big players are not there night after night, right? I mean, it's a little bit hard, and it's low. Obviously, the money is not there, right? I mean, it's got much lower top prizes, but if you build a decent single entry model, and if you have a decent, way of optimizing, I think, that's a nice sport where at least the biggest sharks are not around. I didn't do that, but come to think about it, I think that's a great opportunity for somebody, right? Golf also, it's a fairly simple thing. I know you love golf, right? But you've got just 6 golfers under a salary cap. It's kind of easy to understand what to do. You just, think about making the cut, but try to get some top guys in there. And, that's a good tour too, I think. The football and the basketball, you're going to be competing against these really good people, right? I think getting into hockey is a really nice jumping springboard, if you will.
Who are some of the DFS names or handles that you respect the most, just from whether analyzing their lineup, seeing them at the top of the leaderboard, not wanting to, get in a contest with them? Who are the crushers out there right now?
Brick 75.
There you go. Way to. I don't
know what your numbers are. I know it's Brick, but I don't know.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think, you can go for the obvious guys in the particular sports, like in basketball. Chipotle is really hard to contend with this season. He's been unreal. I think, the McLovins and the Osmos are tough whenever they're around, just the way it is. I truly respect them. I think they're just amazing players. I think, I also at the Super Bowl spend time with Royal Payne. He's an excellent player. And so, there's just so many out there, as you get more into it, you really start to know the handles. You really get to know who are the guys that are going to be building the most interesting lineups. You've got to tip your hat to Osmo. He is out there every night in every sport, does great, is really someone that promotes the industry for us. And so I think he's great. Yeah.
There you no RBX 88 though. I couldn't help but
RBX 88. I know him. I can't. If I tell him he's so good, I can't really get him up there. Right? That's not good. So, but obviously he's a great player. I think we have different approaches to the number of entries we buy in a particular competition. It's fun to see the different nuances from player to player.
There you go. What were you gonna say, Brian?
There is a rumor that Osmo is more machine than man out there. I don't know who started it. But I don't know if I'd give him full credit if he is actually an android. That's not really hard for them.
That's true. Yeah, I guess if he's not human, we can tone it down a bit. But still, he's built he's an amazing guy, I think, as far as defense goes.
There you go. Let's see here. Okay. Wow. Steve heading in here for some more in-depth question. Newbie question. What would we Google to start learning about building a model? Any language terms, the 101 for model building here?
Yeah, I think growing up, when I started getting into analytics and optimization and such, I really did C++. that is not the right language for something like DFS. Don't go that low level. I think as far as programming languages, you're probably going to want to look at Python. That's probably the best. And yeah, as far as model building, I mean, there's so many resources out there, right? So I think there's this site called DataCamp. It's relatively inexpensive, and you can learn quite a few things from there, right? They have little modules on learning introductory Python, medium Python, intermediate Python, and more advanced things. And I think, yeah, look at resources like that. They're not expensive. They can really get you a good understanding on how to build a predictive model and, use some code fluently and such. So, yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Go ahead.
Quick
question. Are you familiar with a person who goes by the name Vegas Dave?
I don't think so.
Okay, you're missing out.
Hang on. Maybe if I pull up a picture, you might recognize this guy.
I hope it's not a picture of me in Vegas at some point, because that'd be a little.
Well, actually, there is one out there of.
Let's see here. All right, let me get my screen share. Tell me if you recognize this man.
No.
Okay. You really aren't online. If you don't know who Vegas Dave is, you have done a great job of staying offline.
So you're willing to confirm right now that you do not use his projections or picks?
So Vegas Dave is a sports bettor / handicapper / scammer who promises his subscribers 100-0 wins in any sport. And he's been known to buy these purses here. And he's become kind of a cult figure on the show. So we were just we like to check in and see where people are at with Vegas Dave here.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I should look him up and take my 100-0 wins. I don't know what I'm doing in my life.
Yeah, I know it's rough out there. Do you do any sports betting?
No, not. Although I've been thinking about dabbling into it now, but especially now that sports books and stuff are allowed to be, you can bet online and things like this. But no, not yet. I've done like decent size NFL survivor pools. And I've done but nothing major. No.
What state are you in?
Connecticut. Okay,
you guys have legal betting, right?
It's just started. Yeah. I mean, the governor just at the start of this year said, this is one of the top agenda items. And then we have the big casinos, right? So Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun. And so I think there's some agreement between the state and these and the casinos and everything. I don't know exactly the details, but yes, I think now you're able to bet online.
You've mentioned survivor pools a couple times. It seems like you got a bit of a passion for those. Can you give us a little tidbit there? Wet the beak on some survivor pool strat?
Yeah, don't look all the way through the season. Look halfway through the season when planning, right? So if it's week 1, don't just pick week 1 teams without thinking a little bit in advance, okay? Generally speaking, I like to think about 7 and 8 weeks in advance. What I do is, if I'm making a decision week 1, I kind of plan out what I'll do for the next 6, 7, 8 weeks.
Okay.
I don't fix that in stone, right? I'll just pick the week 1 decisions. And then after that, I can completely remove what I had planned for. But at least you have some reasonable approach remaining for the remaining weeks, given your current projections for each of the games downstream. So that's how I do it. I like multi-entry stuff, clearly. So generally speaking, I like to enter survivor pools where I'm not just picking one. I can enter 20 of them, for example.
Gotcha. MME, the survivor pools.
Someone in my chat asking if you can audit your class.
I don't think you're allowed to, but just reach out to me. We can have a conversation.
There you go. I think he might have been joking, but maybe not. There you go. Reach out, guy. And another one. Do you play MMA DFS?
I've only played a couple times, and yeah, I mean, I find it, I don't know, a little bit hard, but I really haven't spent enough time diving deep into it because you just have to kind of pick the right winners, and it seems more. I don't know. I'm not sure if my approach will be successful there, but again, I have not dove deep enough into MMA.
Someone in the chat was asking about best ball, and I actually seem to kind of dovetail a little bit with your survivor stuff. And I know you're exclusively DraftKings, but they did offer it this year. Have you looked into that at all?
I did one for like $10 and completely bricked. So I just didn't have the time at the time. I really, really didn't have time, but yeah. Yeah,
I don't know. I think it'll be interesting this year. I think there's going to be a ton of big contests again, and kind of that same idea of what kind of time horizon lens you're thinking about those teams through might be interesting.
Yeah, because they're going to change as you move through the season. There's no question, and guys are going to get injured. There's going to be changes on teams, but you have to go a little bit in advance. Yeah. So, yep.
That's a good question. What do you think that the future of time horizon got me thinking? What do you think the future of DFS is? 5 years from now.
I think it's going to get ultra competitive, probably, and I think that I hope places like DraftKings reduce the rate, the rake that they take, because I think it's going to be just too hard to turn a profit eventually. Right now, I think the top players are we're able to kind of stay ahead of the game a little bit, and if you get serious enough about it, I think you can pull in some extra stuff. But as it gets more popular, as people find out more about it and dive more deep on it, it's just going to get really competitive. So, they're going to have to get more maybe exotic with their games, and hopefully reduce the rake back a little, the rake a little bit. But we'll see.
Yeah.
With I mean, the trajectory of poker is probably a good model for where we're headed. So like, it won't be gone, but it'll be really, really tough to beat. The regulation hurts us as players, although people don't think that. They think it helps us because they're less likely to go under, but they're way less likely to be respectable competition in the market. So that's the only thing that'll drive down prices, drive down rake, and way less people are going to meet those barriers to entry, the higher the licensing costs, etc. So I'm not optimistic that rake is ever going to go down.
Yeah, I mean, I think they also have to pay this. Don't they have to pay like a new excise tax this year or something like that? Yeah,
it depends on the state.
Yeah,
depends on the state what they have to do. I am optimistic that maybe like CBS or one more behemoth might get in, and then they could have like an extra year and a half, 2.5 years of some competition and just free money from promotions and such.
Yep.
But I think it's going to be really tough 5-10 years from now. I would say like we're at like 2008 poker right now for the poker players out there, somewhere around there.
I think you're probably right. 1 second, let me just run one thing here.
You're good. Well, this is how the sausage gets made.
Oh,
wait a second. Did somebody get ruled out?
What's that? No, I mean, I'm just doing some basketball stuff. We got 9 o'clock. We got Showdown, a classic, and an update going on. So
here's another question from Grant. When playing football, do you look at more game slates as profitable? I think he's asking, do you like full game slates versus showdowns as far as football?
Classics versus Showdown. So yeah, I mean, I think when I first started, I wanted to start with something simple, so I went for Showdowns. And I think, I said NBA Showdowns were great earlier. I love NFL Showdowns too. I don't really like MLB Showdowns for some reason. It just doesn't work for me that well. But the NBA and the NFL Showdowns have been amazing for me. I love them. I think they're fun. They're super simple. You run it once, you don't have to even touch it again. Of course, I love the classics too, right? I mean, there's where the bigger money is going to be week over week. So yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say a word, and I want you to tell me what comes to mind. Word association. When I say the word dupes, what do you think?
Dupes. Confused.
Okay, how about that's just slang for duplicates.
Oh,
Dupes?
Yeah. There is some situations in where you might want to consider some dupes, if you will, but very, very, very few. I don't generally do that. I've tried. It never really seems to work out. So, for example, if you take a huge NBA Showdown, 15,000 people, you're probably going to tie up top. So, yeah, sorry, I know I'm saying a lot of things, but anyway. So it is maybe sometimes worth it to double up on entries, but I don't do it.
Oh, no, I did. Yeah. You're saying yourself, the people who like run a train or run multiple lineups of the same. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you heard it here. Dupes do not matter. No one pay attention to dupes.
There you go.
I'm not sure. Maybe not. I'm not really sure.
You're right. You're right.
Okay, good. Don't worry about dupes then.
Don't worry about it.
I'm going to try to read this. Pete, can you ask why the Whistlesgowoo had to come on late in the Masters Golf Championship qualifier to beat me like I banged his wife? He rose fast.
Oh man, yeah, that was a good tournament. Sorry, we're all out to have fun, so
goodness. And Yeah, let's see here. I mean, are there, we really appreciate you coming on. We really turned the screws on you trying to figure out who the real David Bergman is. I think we learned a lot tonight.
Cool. I'm glad if you ever want me back on the show, you let me know. And if anyone ever wants to reach out and chat a bit about DFS, it's increasingly becoming what I do with my life. So let me know.
This is what I think we should do. We did this a few times last summer. We played during an MMA slate. We all got our lineups in. Then we cracked some beers, threw them on the TV, and just hung out here on a stream. I say we get you, RBX88, Osimo, the 6 of us, throw back some beers while you learn how to play MMA DFS, and we shoot the shit about it.
I'm in. You let me know and give me some warning ahead of time, and I'll be in.
There you go.
I appreciate you coming on. And if you ever do get on social media, just, tag us, let us know, and we'll pump you up.
Awesome. Sounds good, guys. I appreciate it. Good luck tonight. Hopefully DD got you even more runs, and so then you can get that qualifier ticket tonight. We'll see.
I appreciate it.
And can we get one more woo just for the road?
Let's see what my line is. Let's see if I'm winning right now, then I'll tell you if I can woo or not. Give me a second.
It'll be a very solemn woo if not.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I mean, this is like a mediocre woo, so we'll see. No, I don't know exactly what's up. But I appreciate everything, and wish you guys have a good night.
All right, David. It was great talking to you, man. We'll see you in those DFS streets.
Definitely. Take it easy, guys.
All right, peace.
Adios.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, David Bergman. We got our answer. He is not the WhistleGowoo guy you saw on DraftKings.com. He is a man who I'm now realizing I'm not doing enough productive things with my schedule.
Why'd you have to go so hard on him on the questions? Jesus.
Brian, you were turning the screws. What did they ask? They said Brian's one question away from asking something, but I forget.
Yeah, I saw that. It wasn't that bad. I gotta tell you, I was trying to get a quote for Osimo.
Yeah, to light a fire under his ass?
No, just like to, whatever. If he uses their projections.
Yeah, Chris says he is the WhistleGowoo guy. Tonight was the bit. Now that would be an incredible bit.
There wow, that would be great. Yeah,
that's more my kind of bit. The donkey that pretends to be smart. So I don't think he's capable of that, Chris.
I am interested in his optimizer because that would make. I wonder what he does, what he runs on, because that would make the process a lot easier, honestly. If you could code that all in yourself.
And that's what he was kind of implying, right? That it would just eliminates a step for him.
Yeah, it's what he says. Sometimes he uses ownership, sometimes he doesn't. So like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But like I said too, like since he uses other people's projections, he probably uses other people's ownership. It sounds like too. That conundrum definitely happens because their projections are baked into their ownership. You know what I mean? It's kind of a complicated thing to think about. So like I like using. You're
saying like what wags that, or what's driving what? Yeah,
that could definitely happen. I was just talking about this with Steve. I think Steve Buzzard on DM or somebody. So yeah, that could definitely happen, and that'll save him a significant amount of time. Obviously, using Alex's stuff, and just playing DK with no cash games, he's totally doable. Obviously, like
yeah. I agree with this take by Tony, and you kind of referenced it at some point too. He just hasn't hit the point where he's jaded about this. Like he still just genuinely loves and is enthusiastic about playing DFS each night.
Yeah. He's not a professional gambler, and he's got a full-time job. This is something that obviously, and he's only been doing it, like he said, for a couple of years.
Yeah,
well, probably not even really if you think about it. Like he binked that in December, 2.5. So, but he had enough roll to get into all those qualifiers. So in 2020, he must have been basically full time. I just don't remember seeing his screen name that frequently, but that doesn't matter. Like I could have.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm having a bad day, I just close the app anyways. I don't even look to see who won. I'm like, fuck you guys. You're all lucky. So he could have been banking there, but yeah, I mean, he's not a professional gambler, and he probably will keep it for a while too, because he's got his job, like other things to take his mind off of it, and he can't really swing anymore. You know what I mean? Unless he.
What do you mean swing? Oh,
like
you mean like his bankroll?
Yeah, like if he's got like whatever $3 million roll, it's like as long as he's not insanely reckless,
Right.
he's fine. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I mean, you could easily lose $600,000 in a month. I have. So like, but maybe he's better than me. Who knows? But like, that'll fucking hurt. It's tough to go. The whistle goes woo when you lose someone's life savings.
Lou says you were livid. I don't think you were livid, but you did feel very serious in when you were interrogating with your questions.
Yeah, I was a little too intense, probably. What are you gonna fuck you guys?
Well, I think
because like here's why. Okay. It started off like, dude, this isn't CBS. Like, we're not doing a local news interview. It's a podcast. Like, we bullshit. So I felt like he was like, yeah, you just gotta, you know what I mean? Like talking to us like we were Channel 7. I don't know your local stations, like your local WGN or whatever. Morning coffee interview.
Yeah, but you also got to realize this. First of all, he's like not on Twitter, so he doesn't have that kind of frame of reference from where everyone's coming from.
Yeah,
he's only ever done probably that DraftKings interview where she's asking him like
That's what I thought. Yeah, no, I was wrong. Let me say it, because that's exactly where you're right. He was coming from. He probably thought it was a DraftKings WGN morning coffee interview type of thing, and so like I was like a little thrown from that, and then what was the other thing was like, because he's not involved, it's like oh, he doesn't know any of the things that are going on. I don't know if like is this serious or not? Like, does he purposely not pay attention to anything in the DFS world? He's like, no, he just doesn't do it. So
yeah, no, he was a good sport, and it was cool to learn more about. I'm honestly, the first thing I thought at the beginning when he was describing all that, I was like, oh, he's a single guy, and then he says he has the 2 kids. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's completely different from the DK interview to now. So like on his comments on the easiest sports, like I disagree with him. I don't think NHL's that easy. There's dead money in every sport still, like people just not setting their lineups and stuff like that. But I think NHL's pretty tough, and other sports we've talked about it on other shows.
I got the vibe, I could be wrong, I got the vibe that he was answering it. It seems like when he says easy, as far as what part of his process is the most streamlined, maybe like what was easy for him versus like the actual competition. Because it really does seem like he's just in his thing. He's not adjusting a lot to what his opponents are doing. And he's just ramming it in his own world.
His process, by the way, is what I would suggest to someone starting, because if you add in making your own projections and your own ownership, and then keeping that up to date and stuff like that, like that's like a whole bunch of extra work. And so if you can, like, let's say you just want to focus on something, that what he's doing is what I would focus on. Building your own optimizers, and also like I would love to see the speed of which his simulations work, because I doubt he's doing that in the NBA. Because you just don't have the time.
Yeah.
It's very tough to do, especially at this point in the season. So at certain points during the middle and beginning of the season, you can get it in. Like I can get it in with like 8 minutes with doing a full sim. But like so like I have an option where I could go in between the two. I could run a sim, or I could just do a static adjustments, right? Like from regressions and stuff. But probably the last month or so, I've never even bothered with the sim, because the tanking and all the scratches and stuff just gets too crazy to keep running sims. But if he has some sort of super fast personal coded optimizer, it's possible.
Yeah,
it's possible.
I mean, that was our whole thing a while ago, right? It was like trying to guess how many people do their own simulations. I mean, how many people have their own optimizer? I mean, we're talking about a much, much more smaller number there.
So Corey says in my chat, it's interesting that he didn't think ownership being that important. Yeah. So that's just wrong. So I don't know if he was not to be blunt or whatever, but like if in my first video I put on my channel, like there's no way ownership doesn't matter. From a mathematical perspective, it's impossible. It has to.
Yeah.
You might be able to be the best player on the planet without using it. I'm not saying that. It might, because it might be so inefficient still. And
isn't that like when you play on some of the other sites and you just say, I'm just going to be better because my projections are better and there's not a lot of other content around that. It sounds like maybe that's how he feels about DFS, that
right.
His projections and process, although he's not even using his own projections, but whatever part. But if you're not using your own projections and you don't value ownership, then where is the secret sauce even coming from?
From the simulation and the regressions. I mean, but I could totally understand what he's saying, because if you take Osimo's projections, plug them in the Fantasy Cruncher, put some randomness on there, and run 500 lineups, the exposures are going to be like a 0.9R to Osimo's ownership.
Yeah, trust me, I've done it.
So like,
yeah.
Who knows what he's getting at? But that's probably something what he's getting at. And in 2017, 2017, I didn't use ownership at all. Didn't need to.
Yeah.
It's because there were no good projections even available for people to use, and so if you made your own, you're ahead of the game already. But yeah, like we've talked about this for tennis, like I wouldn't use ownership. Like, you don't need to yet.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to look at his lineups and see if he's duping at a higher frequency than other top players.
Yeah, no. He said dupes don't really matter, so I think we should spread that message.
I think he didn't understand the direction the question was coming.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't a question.
It is interesting that he didn't care about dupes though, because in NBA Showdown there are quite amount of dupes. Yeah,
NBA Showdown seems like one of the places where there would be more dupes than a ton of sports.
Yeah. It's up there.
Yeah.
The thing though with NBA, where which differs from MMA, for example, is it's so predictive. People, it's kind of a trope at this point, but it's like it's not even worth it getting off. But like you can still get rid of the ones are going to be duped 500 times and stuff like that. Like,
yeah. Well, that was very fun. We don't do guests on here a ton, but when we do, we make them count. So I love pulling guys like RBX88 and Whistlesgowoo from out behind their screen names because they don't have a social media presence, and doing shows with them. It's always fun.
Yeah, that was fun. Thank you for doing it, Dave. I did forget to ask him if he likes the nickname Yukon Dave.
I know we didn't quite get there. It would have been a lot easier to make that segue if he knew who Vegas Dave was. But that was tough. Yeah, guys. So usual housekeeping stuff. I think I mentioned this the past couple weeks, but set up a LOLs channel in my Discord. The link's down below. That's the Deposit Kingdom Discord. We've had lots of fun in there, and I'm sure we will have some topics of conversation about Yukon Dave after the show tonight. So hop in there if you haven't. We got our merch. Brian, show off your shirt again. There you go. My tank hasn't arrived yet. I think it's showing up soon. So we will be rocking our LOLs merch. Thanks again to Paul for our new graphics. I still like staring at them here on the StreamYard. And yeah, audio goes up as well. And I think that's it. Brian, any other plugs for us here?
No, appreciate it, Yukon Dave. Thanks for showing up. And I think we have a topic set for next week already anyways. So
yeah, we can. It's I feel like this is pretty impressive. I feel like this is growth, because I guess I did ask one question about crypto, but this was our most DFS heavy show in a long time.
There you go.
There you go. We're back, baby. LOLs is back. We'll see you next Wednesday.